I saw these cards today on Instagram, and I've been having two cards laying on my desk trying to figure out um, how to make a card. I make layouts, scrapbook layouts, but I'm not much of a card maker, so I really needed some inspiration, and this one just did it perfectly for me. I really like the spring color theme, and I had just downloaded some spring papers from Echo Park last week for my silhouette, so I wanted to use those, and I liked this because down here is the background of like a craft cardstock, and then they used a white along with this beautiful embossing folder. I think that's from Stampin' Up. I don't have that embossing folder, but I have a ton of others. So I'm going to kind of use this idea. I also have this frame right here from Tim Holtz. So I'm going to use that, and then I can cut out these cute banner shapes on my silhouette. It looks like they used 6 banners, 2 of each similar size. So we'll see how this turns out, and we'll go ahead and start experimenting. So the first thing I did was I'm going to open my silhouette. Now this is going to be using print and cut. So the first thing I want to do is change my page to an 8.5 by 11 instead of a 12 by 12 because that's the size that my printer will print in. Then I'm going to go up here and open the registration marks and show registration marks. Okay, so this is the general page I'm going to be working off of. In the end, I am not going to cut this rectangle, but this is a good reference guide for me as to what size my card is and what size to make those banners. So I'm going to go over here to open the scale window. While the dimensions are showing, then I will go over here and do 4.25 for the width and 5.5 for my height and click apply. And now that is the exact size of an A2 card. So whatever is in here will fit when I go to cut it out. Before I start making all those banners, I want to make sure to make my white insert because I will go ahead and cut that out of this cardstock while I have it out. So I'm going to do an internal offset for that white region. So I'm going to select the rectangle, again, make sure the dimensions are showing, go to open the offset window. Internal offset, so it's going to make an inside card, and you can see it barely made that line. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click corner to make sure I keep those nice edges, and then I'm going to start clicking up on this arrow just to make a nice edge on this card here. And I think I'm going to go up to about 1/4 of an inch. There we go. So that will be perfect. Now, if you kind of want to get a glimpse of what everything is going to look like, go ahead and start filling your elements with the colors. So for example, this background one, again, I'm not going to be cutting that one out, but just to give me an idea, I'll color it kind of the color of a craft cardstock. I think my cardstock is a little bit darker, probably about that shade. Then I'll take this inside rectangle and I will make that white because that is going to be the color of that. So now you kind of have a more realistic idea of what sizes you're going to be working with. And then I know I'm going to be having these banners. Now, in the photo, this banner looks to be about, maybe 1/3 of the width of this white sheet of cardstock. So I'm going to make 2 of those. All right, so I'm going to move those to the side and start working on this banner. Now, how I cut the edges of the banner is I'm going to make a perfect square. Click Draw a Rectangle, hold down the Shift key, and then draw a square. Now, the square technically needs to be just a little bit bigger than your element down here. So I'm just going to make it slightly bigger. Then I'm going to, let's see here. I don't think I can do it this way. Nope. Okay, so let me select on the element and object, rotate by 45 degrees. Now I will go ahead and take the square and drag it down to about where I want this banner width to be. Now for my banner, I want it to be a little on the chunky side, so I'm going to go ahead and do it like this. Okay, so now the main idea here is that you want these to be nice pointed edges, and then select so that you have selected both objects at the same time. Go back up here to open the modify window and subtract. What you've done is you've subtracted that piece of the square that was in this side of the rectangle. And now you have a perfect banner. So I'm going to go to my patterns section. And I'm going to scroll down to that Echo Park collection that I downloaded last week, which is So Happy Together. It has this one that has little houses on it. So when I double click on that and fill this, you can see they're pretty tiny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Advanced Options, and we are going to scale this pattern up. There we go. So now it really has a nice view of several of the houses that are on that, and I think it adds a really cheerful pattern. Now, as I was looking through those papers, I could not find one that has that green in it. So I'm going to snatch a green off of this. So I'm going to fill this other big banner that I have right here with this color green. So how I do that is, again, I go to the open the fill color window, and I'll get my little eyedropper tool here. And you'll notice my blank element is selected with the dimensions showing. And I'll go over here and pull out the green. And now I have a perfectly matching green banner that will coordinate with these little houses. There's also a lighter green. Let me try to grab that one instead. Let's see if it's any lighter. No, guess it's not. Guess it's just a visual thing. All right, so there's the green. Use this shade of yellow. Okay, so overall, I'm really liking the look of how my particular card is coming together, and I think I've gotten enough from the inspiration project. You will notice they used one of those Tim Holtz little brackets up here. So I like the phrase. I'm going to use the for you, and I need to make sure to print out a rectangle large enough to be able to cut out this element from my Tim Holtz die that I have on my Big Shot. So I will be using that and trying to find another hot pink element to fill that as well. After I have all the elements that I want, then I'll start moving things around on my page to get them print and cut. Okay, so you'll see that I have actually 3 different cut and print pages. What I did was I like to make sure that I can make more than just one card at a time. So with this one, what I've done is copied it twice here, but again, the card base wasn't there. So this one has the card base and a couple of the other elements. So now I can I copied two of the other elements over here with two more card bases. So with everything that I have that I've copied and pasted, now I can make a total of 4 cards instead of just 2. Because you'll see all of these pink banners, I have 4 copies right here. I have 4 copies of the blue banners here. And then the rest of these I've copied on pages 2 and 3 along with my backgrounds. So now all I have to do is run this first through my printer. I'm going to run all 3 pages through the printer one time, and then I'll run them all through the silhouette one time, and I'll have enough elements to make 4 cards. For the book plate, I'm going to be using this cutout right here. It embosses and it cuts. It's from the Tim Holtz Alterations, and this one is called the Tag and Book Plates. Now this one, you'll want to make sure that you have that little metal piece that comes with it, just to kind of secure that in place for you next to it. So for the big shot, I put one plate down, and I'll put this plate in. Now when you print and cut on the silhouette, your cardstock is on one side. This is the side that I want the embossing of the book plate on. So I need to make sure to place it face down on top of this die. And then I put my other plate on top. Sometimes the static kind of sticks to your paper, so I want to make sure it stays in place. To make the base of the card, I used some craft cardstock by Paper Tray Ink in 8.5 by 11. I'm making 4 cards, so I'm going to need 2 sheets. A standard A2 card is 5.5 inches by 4 1/4. So I'm going to turn it long ways at the 11 inches, and I will cut it at 5.5. And there I have 4 perfectly sized card bases. Next, I'll use my Martha Stewart scoring board. And I'll take my card and score it at 4 1/4. Okay, so before I mount it to my card base or put the label on top, I did my stitching on the sewing machine, and then I'll just kind of anchor these extra threads on the back. Then for the final touch, instead of brads, I like using these pearl pens or liquid pearls. This one is actually my favorite brand, but I did stock up on some liquid pearls from Ranger just because I got them really cheap. These are quite a bit more expensive, but they do an amazing job. First thing I always do is kind of get the air bubbles out. So I'll start on a scratch piece of paper first, then I'll move over to my project. Okay, so just a quick review of what I'm going to be making available on my blog is these 3 files. They'll be named House Cards, House Cards 2, and House Cards 3. You'll need all 3 of these files in order to complete the cards. Now, all of the shapes, though, will be blank instead of having these papers in them because I don't own the license for these papers through Echo Park. So what you can do is you can go through and fill it with any color that you have in your Silhouette library or any of the other patterned papers that you have in your Silhouette library. So again, all of these will be blank, so they'll all look white, similar to these blank spots you see here. But you'll have the cut files and you can fill them with whatever files you like in order to make the same exact cards. Thanks for watching.